Good afternoon. This is Jim Ray with the Road to the Autry Masters. We're talking about the artists in the Autry Museum's Masters of the American West exhibition this afternoon. We're fortunate to have with us Ezra Tucker. Ezra comes to us from Monument, Colorado. This is his first year in the Masters, and we're very happy to have him. Welcome, Ezra. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just excited about being part of the archery.
Well, we're excited to have you as well. I like to start these things out by asking about your background. Why don't you share with us some information about your artistic upbringing?
Artistic upbringing. I'm very probably normal or usual. I started as a kid, around 5, 6 years old. You know, just drawing, never putting down a pencil. I've always done that, still do it every day. And going through high school and public school, I was the school artist. I did a lot of projects for teachers and for the football team, basketball team. You know, our mascot was a wildcat, and I liked drawing and painting animals. So I got to, use my imagination and create images surrounding the basketball and the football team. And that was a lot of fun. Kind of miss it, And after high school, I went to Memphis Academy of Arts, Memphis, Tennessee, and I graduated with a BFA degree in advertising design, and recruited out of college by Hallmark Cards, Kansas City, Missouri. And I worked for that company for about 5 years before I wanted to do other things other than the greeting card product. And so I resigned from the company, and I got agents, art agents in the advertising world, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Cleveland, Ohio. So I had these agents out there, getting work for me, getting jobs for me, and publishing, product illustration, magazine illustration, movie posters, just a whole range of advertising. And I did that. I did that for about a good 25 years. Loved it. Enjoyed solving problems and helping art directors come up with ideas to promote their products. And so I did that, loved it, and after a while, just decided I wanted to do fine art, and I wanted to do wildlife art. I've always wanted to do wildlife art, and so after, and I always thought always said Hallmark was kind of a graduate school for me, because I learned a lot about paint, design, color, all of those things, and that led me into doing the commercial work.
So when you got into doing fine art, there's a process that you go through to gain distribution, if you will. How did that process go for you, and how did that get you up into some of these? You're in the Briscoe's Night of Artists, which is another major museum show. You're in our show. In fact, we learned about you from attending the Briscoe show last year. Very impressed with your work, and that's why we invited you into the show. How did that whole process go for you?
Well, there was no formula that I used. It was, the fact that I wanted to do wildlife, and I knew that there was an opportunity in the fine art, Western art world for fine art of wildlife, as I wanted to do it. And the way that I did it was just walking into galleries and showing my work and getting opportunities, because the way that I was painting was big scale things. And a lot of the galleries that I showed with in the beginning were surprised that I was doing that scale of work. And I think that got me a lot of attention. And, but it was basically me just asking questions, filling out applications, just talking to other people that were in the art world that I wanted to be in. And they just gave me a lot of different information and advice about how to go about meeting people, going to the shows, just putting myself out there. Because for most of my career, I've been in my studio, and I'm rarely out of my studio. And a lot of my friends said, you got to get out of your studio, meet people. But if I was busy, I didn't see a need to be out of my studio. And so I really just kind of ease my way into it just by asking questions, doing magazine ads. That was one way that I introduced myself to a lot of the art shows and the galleries, is just buying ads in publications like Western Art Collector and Art and Architecture. And that was a good introduction for me.
I'm going to go a little bit off topic here and recall that when you were at Hallmark Cards, you also worked there with Thomas Blackshear and Dean Mitchell,
Yes.
who are two artists that are also in our Masters show. Have you guys kind of stayed connected with each other over the years?
Oh yeah, it's a brotherhood. It's kind of their family to me, and we talk to each other on a regular basis, and we've always kept in touch since we left Hallmark. I stayed 5 years. Tom, I think, stayed 1 year, and I think Dean was there 3-4 years. I can't remember exactly, but I left before he did. But we've always just kept in communications because, we have some of the same interests, and we were just supportive of each other because we respected each other's talent.
Yeah, in fact, you guys did I think it was a joint show over at the Broadmoor Gallery in Colorado just this last year. Is that right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
It was very nice to have, those guys around. We spent, 4 or 5 days, and, that was really cool just to be around because we haven't really seen each other on a regular basis.
Well, Thomas got a little bit upside down on his schedule this year, so he didn't have time to bring us any work. But I'm looking forward to next year when we can see all three of you guys in the same room together.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But Tom's kind of always upside down, so that's good.
I won't tell him you said that. Well, let's talk about the work that you've got for the Masters this year. The first one, and it's a selection. You've got some wildlife. You've got some Western work, and so the first one is Snow Day. What's the story behind that guy?
Yeah, not a whole lot. It was just an image that I really wanted to bring up and create, and it was just one of those things that was in my head that I just wanted to put down on canvas. But I'm not saying a lot with it. It's just I think a cool painting.
Yeah. Now, when you're doing wildlife work like that, what is your source material?
Wow. I'm mainly drawing out of my head because I've been doing wildlife for so many years that, I sit down with a sketchbook and I'm just drawing, creating ideas that come to me. And, just my sketchbook has thousands and thousands of sketches in it. And these are things that I've been accumulating, since I was in college. And when I'm deciding on doing a finished piece, I will go through my sketchbook and just find some of the thumbnails that I've put into it. And then I just start drawing. And because I know the anatomy, and that's one of the things that I was very fortunate to have happen, was my brother encouraged me to learn how to draw animals from the inside out. Not just taking photographs and recopying photographs, but learn the anatomy of each one of these creatures that I'm doing. And that's basically how I draw and how I create. It's just from my imagination because I have the knowledge. And if I need some details, I do have a library here in my studio that I refer to, photographic reference, film, so on, just so that I can get details of different shapes of noses and feet, antlers, things like that.
Okay. The second one is, I think, a distinctive piece for us, at least at the Masters, is Between Matinees, and it's kind of a story for us, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I really, I like history, and I like for me, the story of Buffalo Bill is exciting. It's fun. We've all seen it, in film and on TV and, in books. And I know that a lot of people are really excited about seeing Buffalo Bill sitting on a white horse, waving his hat and that sort of thing. And I always thought, from the animal's perspective, is backstage. What's happening backstage with these animals and the people that are performing? There's a lot of imagery to draw from and stories to tell about how the animals were kept, or how they interacted with each other, and there's and the fact that Buffalo Bill blended his circus with, his show, his Wild West show, with a circus was fascinating to me when I was doing research, and I just thought, okay, let's tell that story then, because I don't know if many people know about him having to blend his circus, his show with the circus, because of financial issues that he had. But that imagery of the animals in cages and in backstage, and on all of the wagons, and there's a lot of imagery for me that's exciting.
Yep.
So that's one reason I produced that, and to put the elephants in it was, to me, is okay. That's definitive of a circus, is to have elephants, and so that's why I pulled all of that imagery together, and then showing the bison in the middle ground was also trying to lead people into the piece.
Yep, great. So another wildlife piece that you've got is the Undefeated, what's your thinking on that one?
Myself, I love the interaction. When you talk about animals, they're, and these moose, they're fighting every season for dominance and for mating rights, and sometimes these the battles that they do end up with, sometimes one doesn't get up, and they and the young will challenge the dominant male, and this was me just wanting to tell that story. Rungus told that type of story. Yep. There are other wildlife artists that, a lot of the European artists did really definitive imagery like that in their sculpture and in their paintings. And and that was a big impression on me as a kid, is to tell that story of these animals that battle and what happens afterwards, and not just have them be static posed portraits, but just to tell the story of how these animals live. Yep. So that's, I really wanted that to be like a gigantic painting. Ideally, I want it to be like 7 or 8 feet tall. No time, so I had to do it smaller.
Yeah, and I've seen some examples of some of your gigantic paintings, and in fact, I might pull one up and show it when I edit this thing together. The last thing we've got is Breaking a Maverick, classic Western piece.
Yeah, fun thing to do is the drama, and I do like doing. When I did a lot of book illustration, telling stories in some of the Boys Life and Outdoor Life magazines, and that was always fun, to try to paint and tell stories like N.C. Wythe did, the Golden Age of Illustrators, and for me, doing that image in that manner was dramatic. Is me sitting down doing a number of sketches, just trying to get the composition correct. And the fact that you have an African-American cowboy on this bucking bronco. Me as a kid growing up, I never saw an African-American figure in the West as I'm doing it. And I always wondered, why was that? And for me, this was kind of that opportunity to say, you had African-American cowboys, and you had these guys out there, and from a lot of my research is, they were the ones that were really breaking and training the horses on the ranches, doing reconstruction when a lot of African Americans were moving west after slavery, after the Civil War, and they worked on a lot of the ranches, and going into Texas, Oklahoma, also into California. So you had, I wanted to do something really iconic, epic, dramatic, with the expression on the fellow's face is, there is a little concern he has, I guess, of what's happening with this horse. So this Mustang is, he's going to break him. He's going to break the cowboy's going to break him.
So somebody's going to be undefeated here.
There you go.
And you and Thomas both have gone a long way towards portraying the black cowboy. And this year, a little bit surprisingly, I guess, not too surprisingly, John Fawcett, another one of our artists that does both Western and Native American subject matter, has got a black cowboy in his painting The Dance, where he's showing how the cowboy and the horse are in a dance together as they're working the cattle, and he selected about black cowboy for a lot of the same reason that you talked about, that they're actively out there working on the ranches and doing the work. So I'll talk a little bit about how you decide what you're going to create in one of your works. How's that conceptualization take place?
I'm just drawing on things that fascinate me and interest me. As a fine artist, I'm wanting to make a statement. I'm wanting to, and part of my mission is to educate also with the imagery that I create. Not just, I'm very fortunate that when I'm doing a lot of the wildlife that I've been doing for 45 years, a lot of people are, they don't really look at animals. They just kind of, observe and move on. And the thing that I've had from a lot of collectors that have purchased my works, and they will email me or write me a note and say, I've never really looked at animals before until I bought your work. And you're doing details and showing things that I never noticed before. And that's important to me, to have people really observe the work. And so when I'm constructing an image, I'm taking the viewer into, and that's important for me to be aware of who's going to see the work, how I want them to see it. I like to pull people into the work, and so that helps with my composition. And like when I'm like doing the buck and bronco, I wanted that image up front, and I want it almost jumping out of the off the wall when people look at it, and that is just kind of the drama that I like to bring in to all of my work. If I'm telling a story, I want it to be a dramatic story. I want it to be something that makes have people ask questions or do research. Mm-hmm. And so I'm constantly trying to engage the viewer, how to pull the viewer into the piece, how to make people ask questions or be curious about what's going on here. Really look at the painting and walk away with an experience rather than just, oh, that's a pretty painting. Oh, that's a nice painting. So that's, basically how I start every one of my pieces, is what kind of emotion do I want to get out of the viewer? And it's basically just that simple for me.
Okay. So over the course of your career, you've developed a process and you get a certain kind of consistent result from that process. Have you seen that process change or evolve over the years that you've been doing this?
No. I'm basically working the same way I've done since I was in college. When I was being told by instructors, basically, giving me a concept, having a point of view that's not common, that's not unusual, and every piece that I start it differently. It's not like I have a formula about, you put down the paint, you draw it in, you put down paint on top of that, and on and on. Sometimes I just start painting, and then I'll draw as I'm painting. You know, other times I draw and then fill in. There are times that I'm drawing throughout the painting process and changing things. But you know, I like to I have an idea sometimes that doesn't work when as I sketch it in or put it on the canvas on the board, and I will go in and change it and evolve it to make it have more impact or for me to be more satisfied with it. So every painting is different, and it's just how I feel about it. And that is something that I just don't know how to get away from. I've had too many art directors say, wow, I can't even understand how you attempted this. And I'm thinking, well, you gave me a concept. I've got to bring that to life. And whatever I have to do to bring that to life, I will do. You know, scrubbing things out sometimes when the painting's almost done and going back and repainting it. You know, it changes every time I go to do a piece.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Ezra, thank you so much for spending some time with us and sharing your thoughts about your work. It's certainly very interesting and very, very well done. And we hope that we might see you in Los Angeles in February at the Masters. And thanks again.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to being there.
We'll see you then.
All right. Thank you.